Okay, so this episode is going to be a little bit different because just the nature of the episode and the subject matter it brings up. But I hope you'll bear with me, and this, if you don't like it, it's a unique circumstance in the Buffy, in what I'm doing here. So if you're a little bit, anyway, if you don't like this particular video, don't worry, it's different than everything else will be. But I want to get started and kind of hurry because the last couple episodes, if you didn't notice, were cropped kind of weird, and that's because I ran over time. And as I mentioned, I have zero technology skills, so that just meant I had to cut it at one end and the other so that it was under 15 minutes. So, let's go. Okay, so this episode is Lie to Me. It's written and directed by Joss Whedon, and as far as Joss Whedon episodes go, it's probably one of the crappier ones, but I think it's pretty good for where the series is so far. However, this episode's going to get blown out of the water 100 times over by the time this show is over, so anyway, it's a good episode from what we've got so far. But what happens in this episode? What's maybe worth remembering? Angel has a deep, dark past with Drusilla. She was pure and good, which intrigued Angelus, and he drove her insane, killing her family. And on the day she joined a convent, he turned her. Buffy sucks at lying. Willow can't lie either. And Angelus was a seriously scary vampire. So, this episode ends in what I think is a really beautiful way. And Buffy says, "Does it ever get easier?" And Giles is like, "What do you want me to say?" And she asks him to lie, and he does. He says the good guys are always stalwart and true. The bad guys are easily distinguished by their pointy horns or black hats, and we always defeat them and save the day. No one ever dies, and everybody lives happily ever after. It's a lie. So, I'm going to tell a little bit of a personal story, just because of the subject nature of this episode, and because I know that we're working within, so far, this sort of atheistic paradigm. Joss is an atheist. I'm not trying to push religion on anybody because that's super lame. And, yeah. But I want to tell a little bit of a personal story and how I think we can deal with grief perhaps as atheists. Let's go. A personal thing, I am a third-year master's student in a master's program. It's a 3-year program. It's a Master's of Divinity that I'm doing right now. And really early on in the process of my Master's of Divinity, about 2 weeks after I started, I was at this birthday party, and I mentioned that I just started seminary, and I had this interaction that I'm going to tell you about. So I'm at this friend's birthday party, and I told an acquaintance that I just started seminary. And he told me this tragic story about why he left his church. To boil it down, he was planning on going to a church event with a family that he was friends with. And to boil it down, he decided not to go. But that family, including 2 children, died in a car crash on the way to that event. It was someone else's fault, the car accident. And he learned about it on Sunday. And the church said they were in a better place. And he said, no, they're not, he thought. They're just freaking dead. And he doesn't believe in heaven. And he felt that they made too light of the tragedy by trying to paint it as something good. And he left the church after that. And I think what happened in that circumstance is a little bit of what Giles did at the end of the episode. Try to paint some rainbows over this situation. Now, in the end of Buffy, it's clear that what Giles is saying is a lie. But when something really terrible happens, and someone tries to say, oh, this person's in a better place, whether or not we actually believe that's true, it can feel really unsatisfactory and it can feel like a lie. Even if that person isn't trying to lie to us. So, if you don't believe in heaven, or if the idea of heaven is highly unsatisfactory to the experience of grief, if we can't in those moments believe in some kind of all-powerful, omnipresent God that controls everything and has a reason for everything, if we don't believe that, then the death process can perhaps feel especially mournful. Because there was no reason for that death. Grief is lonely. It brings us into our own pain and our own hurt and our own terrible feelings. And no matter who else is grieving, it almost doesn't matter, because seeing past grief is nearly impossible. When someone dies, it's like a part of the universe dies. A piece of the universe stops happening, and there's something really tragic about that. But did it? We grieve for what is lost, for the spirit that person brought to our lives. But if we know anything about science, we know that they still exist. They are brought into the body of the earth, and they become part of the universe in a different way. They are still in our hearts, in our memories, and the meaning that we give them going forward. The ways that we remember them and tell their stories continue them for the rest of us. If we want to love them, it's our responsibility to keep loving them. Is keep telling their story. To keep putting energy into the things that they loved. And that doesn't make it better. Because death sucks. Every time. Every time. We want it to be easier. We want to believe a lie. We want rainbows and sunshine and paradise. But maybe, as Giles suggests through saying the opposite, life is hard. But when someone passes, we become their hands and feet. We perpetuate them. We give them ongoing meaning. We tell their stories and their passions and live them out. We carry them in our hearts. We tell people about the wonderful light they brought to our lives. And we keep their light burning by continuing the work they did and the ways they loved, by making the world a better place. Death is never easy for anyone. All we can do is go forward and participate in the beautification of the universe, in making more good moments than sad moments, in providing comfort where we can, and solidarity where we can't. We grieve together. And rush. This episode has some interesting things going on. Cults and religion. One of the metaphors we might be able to take from Lie to Me is that people can be very wrong about things they believe deeply. Many people lined up to die because they believed that vampires were good. And we can see that many people die for religious cults, but beyond that, many people hold deeply their religious views. It's important to acknowledge that no matter how much stock we put in our beliefs, there is a possibility that we are wrong. It's important, therefore, to listen to everyone. If our views are true, we can take criticism. We can have adult conversations. And we can listen to other views. And sometimes maybe we need to acknowledge when we've been wrong about things. Honesty. One of the most hurtful things we can do to the people we love is lie to them. All loving relationships require trust. Trust with our emotions, with our bodies, with our secrets. Trust with our everything. Betraying someone's trust hits the core of a relationship and makes one question if a relationship is even real. The only way to love someone inside and out is to know them inside and out. And the only way that can be done is with honesty. And honesty can be painful, but real relationships need forgiveness, love, and truthfulness. And none of those things are part-way deals. And of course, life is hard and complicated, as this episode suggests. One of the hardest truths we learn as we grow is that life is harder than we think it is. Sometimes. Few important decisions in life are easy. No political party is right 100% of the time. No religion is right 100% of the time. And we will not be right in life 100% of the time, despite our best efforts. Life requires us to think seriously about most of our decisions and the ways that we live our lives. As Buffy's story shows, that's not easy. It requires us to examine our friendships. Sometimes we have to choose the lesser of two evils and acknowledge that most decisions are gray. In seeing that grayness, though, we can acknowledge good intentions of those we may disagree with and understand that all of us are making tough decisions and doing our best. And really, that's the point of a lot of Buffy. We need to do our best to be our best. Seriously. We need to think about the ways we live our lives. Make hard decisions about whether we are really keeping the best company, spending our time and money in the best ways, and thinking hard enough about the way that we go through life. We should do our best all the time. Have you ever justified something to yourself that was wrong? Have you ever lost someone important to you? Have you ever reunited with an old friend only to find that you can't get along well? I'm also going to put the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number at the end of this video in case this episode triggered anything for you, and because of the subject matter, it's a good thing for a lot of us to have. But our next episode is episode 8, The Dark Age. I also recommend you watch that episode. Yeah, some stuff happens. See you next time. Okay, bye.